So what does VMware Cloud Foundation 9 really mean for enterprises? And why has it become such a centerpiece here at VMware Explore in Las Vegas? These are just a few of the questions I'm bringing to the show floor today, where the energy has been buzzing around new capabilities, customer adoption, and ultimately, what comes next for VCF? And my guest today, who's going to be joining me on the show floor, he leads marketing and learning for the VMware Cloud Foundation division at Broadcom, and he's been right in the middle of the conversations around the latest release, which you may remember launched in June, just a couple of months ago. But now he's helping enterprises understand how VCF is evolving into a true cloud platform. So yeah, we're going to discuss what's new in VCF 9, how it supports everything from traditional VM workloads to containers and AI, etc., and why so many organizations, from Fortune 100 giants to mid-sized businesses, are leaning into this platform. And while you're listening, I'd love for you to think about this. How do you see VCF fitting into your cloud strategy? And what challenges or opportunities might it address for you? But before we go there, and before you start emailing me, let's get today's guest on right now. We're talking here at VMware Explore in Vegas today. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are, what you do, and what you've been talking about at VMware Explore this year?
Yeah. Hey, great to be here with you. So Prashanth Shenoy. I have the pleasure of running the marketing and learning side at the VMware Cloud Foundation division, or VCF division at Broadcom. So it's been an interesting couple of years since VMware became part of Broadcom, and I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me on the podcast today. Now, for people listening, VCF 9, that officially launched in June. Yeah. And for people listening who missed the announcement, or maybe outside of the VMware community, can you just walk me through what's new in this release, why it matters for enterprises, especially if they're building a modern private cloud?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main genesis and the vision behind VCF 9 was to help our customers build, deploy, operate, consume a private cloud, right? So that was the main goal, and that's what VCF 9 delivered. As we did that, we had some fundamental shifts in the way we built that product. Number one was to make sure these VI admins that we worked very heavily with get to transition to be a cloud admin, so that they can have a platform approach of managing and operating their infrastructure, just like the hyperscalers in the public cloud will do, right? So what can we do to provide them unified operations done at a fleet level? What can we do to provide a clear consumption layer on top so that they can provide the right infrastructure services for their developers and their platform engineers in the line of business? And how can we do that in a highly, highly operationally efficient and cost-effective manner? So that was the second big area of focus that VCF 9 delivered. Number three was we've seen tremendous growth in AI workloads as well as container workloads. So we wanted to make sure we build this platform so that no matter what kind of applications and workloads run, you can leverage the same platform. VM applications that we are very well known for and have running millions of these workloads, to container workloads, which are Kubernetes orchestrated, or AI workloads, right? So now this is the one platform with the same consistent interface, same consistent set of services that you can run any kind of workload. So that was kind of the workload-agnostic platform that we built. The fourth area of focus was truly making sure customers have the flexibility and choice. VMware is always known to provide that open ecosystem, whether it's the underlying hardware infrastructure, the OEM, the infrastructure, ISVs that can build on top of that. So we wanted to provide that flexibility and choice while making sure there's location agnosticism built in, which means that, hey, you can take this and run it in your data center and manage it yourself, or go to co-location, or extend it to the edge, or go it as a managed service with our cloud service providers or hyperscalers. Same platform, consistent experience, but operational deployment model flexibility wherever you want and whoever to be managed by. So the license portability concept is built in to VCF. So that's the other key thing that we did.
And of course, there was a lot of big news there in June. But here at VMware Explore, what are the main messages that you want your customers to take away about VCF 9.0 and also Broadcom's broader vision for the private cloud? There's a lot of conversations around that, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are the three key sets of innovation that we deliver now beyond VCF 9 that we announced here, right? So number one, The infrastructure is a means to an end at the end of the day. And the end goal is applications, right? So how can you run your applications in as frictionless and as easy and as cost-effective manner? So we want to bridge the gap between infrastructure and IT and the developers. So the developers can really look at our platform to say, hey, I can do and build and run the same kind of applications that I'm used to doing in a public cloud hyperscaler environment, right? So a lot of innovation that we built in VCF now was towards that. Provide a core set of services for IaaS services and PaaS services that developers can leverage to build their AI application or their modern containerized application. So as part of that, we also announced our native S3 object storage, because that's very critical, because object storage is for unstructured data. And pretty much that is growing at 60 to 70%, right? And because it's generally used for AI workloads. So we wanted to make sure that is natively now available as part of our vSAN, which is our software-defined storage built into VCF, right? So now that becomes a platform for your file, for your block, for your object storage. Same operations, but run object workloads also there. So that was one of the areas, as we said, we are bridging the gap between infrastructure and the developers. And then as we did that, we announced a lot of partnerships, right? So we saw Canonical being an expanded partnership where Canonical is number one cloud OS, right? And AI OS, Ubuntu, that runs everywhere. So we wanted to make sure that runs with VCF, and we provide a single throat to choke with VCF with enterprise support, chiseled containers, so you can run faster and lighter applications, and then pre-compiled vGPU drivers, so you can run it in air-gapped environment. All of that being packaged now as part of VCF. So that was the first area of focus. The second is the private AI, right? So a lot of conversations, and now we are making private AI natively provided as VCF, because we've seen last year AI was in pilot, show me the value, let's see what are the use cases. Now it's getting to more of a production for running some of the business and really running it at scale. So we wanted to make sure VCF has all of the private AI services, both for infrastructure operations, as well as for the developer services who want to use these to run their AI applications or integrate things like AI assistants into their application. So all of the innovation there was to provide private AI as a service. And the 25 years of virtualization benefits that we built are all available now for AI workloads and for GPU, right, which is huge focus for us. And the third was the cyber compliance. With ransomware, cyber threats, these are on the rise, as we all know. And it's become more of a board level, not just a CISO conversation. And especially for highly regulated industry like financial services, healthcare, life sciences, public sector, there is a need for continuous compliance enforcement, right? At any given time, I want to make sure my infrastructure and the applications are compliant, right? Do constant vulnerability assessment, config drift management, remediation, all of that done at scale. So that is one of the key aspects of our cyber compliance advanced service that we announced. The second is when Murphy's Law hits, which is things go wrong, you get attacked by ransomware, how quickly can you recover from that? And how can you make sure your business has minimal impact, if any, was the second area with our VMware Live Recovery and Disaster Recovery now also being part of the Cyber Compliance Advanced Service. And then the third one was a faster way for security incident response and also building a lot more secure computing into the product itself, right? So providing a higher degree of resiliency, higher degree of security, and faster incident response time, including support that we can provide for these level 2 to level 7 kind of security incidents. So all of these with the third key area that we announced. So whole lot that we are nonstop. One of the things was like, hey, are you guys going to innovate after VCF 9? And I think the answer should be pretty clear. I think we're doubling down and going even faster.
Before you came on the podcast today, I was also reading that you'd previously spoken about the need for a cloud reset. What did you mean by that? And how are you seeing customers rethink their strategies as part of this shift?
Yeah. So that thing came about when we did this blind study with around 1,800 IT decision makers across the globe, EMEA, APJ, Americas, around how is their cloud projects going on? What are some of the key benefits, some of the key challenges, tailwind, headwinds that they're seeing, and what is their maturity level, right? So that was kind of the genesis to understand a bit more on the market space. And that's where the cloud reset kind of came. It used to be kind of a public cloud first mentality for a lot of our customers, and that worked out initially really well. But now we are seeing a lot of private cloud momentum being gained, where almost 70% of the customers, organizations that we talk to have repatriated workloads or are actively planning to repatriate workloads from the public cloud to a private cloud operating model, right? And almost 50% of them have building new net workloads, like things like AI workloads on private cloud. So that gave us an idea that there's a cloud reset fundamentally happening. It's about smart workload placement and making sure you get the best bang for the buck. And the tailwinds behind that were around security, around cost and cost predictability specifically, and Gen AI and the privacy and the sovereignty aspect of your data, right? Those were some of the reasons why customers trusted private cloud model more than a public cloud. And the third was the reinforcement that all of this is good, but the IT need to work and operate as a platform team. If they are in their silos of compute, network, storage, operations, it's going to be hard for them to accelerate their private cloud adoption model, right? So where we are intensely focused on retraining, reskilling, certifying our customers to be a private cloud expert and providing all of the tools, free certification, hands-on experience, on-demand learning programs, etc., to make sure they get to reskill and retrain. Otherwise, just like there's a lot of talk around AI and jobs, this is going to happen, right? So it's better that we reskill and be the cloud experts rather than have somebody else do that on your behalf. So those were, I think, the cloud reset and some of the market data that we saw.
I think one of the other headline changes is making VCF an AI native developer-centric platform. We've got to mention AI. It is a tech podcast.
Oh, yeah. Over 50,000 times. Yes. So, you will be fined if you don't say AI. Yeah.
So how does this help organizations accelerate AI adoption while still giving the most important people, some would argue, the developers, the speed and flexibility that they need?
Yeah. As I was saying, the AI projects are getting a lot of steam right now this year, from like a pilot to more of a production thing. So the two areas when we unveil private AI now natively integrate into VCF, right? So one is all of the infrastructure operations that we can provide for AI workloads, right? Things like virtualizing GPUs. We've done that for CPU for 25 years. We can virtualize the GPUs right now. In fact, when we talked to a lot of our customers and we were checking their GPU utilization, it was like 35% utilization, which is highly undersubscribed, right? For such an expensive resource and a cost for the organization. So, hello, virtualization. This is what we did for CPUs. If you do that, you can drastically increase your operational efficiency, get a lot more bang for your GPU resource. So that is now built in and natively available. Things like really doing vMotion, right? Like, which is very important. Smart workload placement, moving your workloads without disrupting your operations and your workloads at all, right? We've done this again for CPUs and VM workloads forever. Now we can do it for GPU with pretty much zero downtime, right? And this is very important when you're running large AI clusters, 70 billion parameters of models. So you want to make sure there is no drop in latency or performance. And this is what vMotion provides. So that is another capability that we built in. And then working to provide things like intelligent assist, using AI to make the operations of VCF better, right? So that's something that we have in the works, right? So that's one part. All things to make infrastructure operations life and the cloud operators' life easy to run AI workloads. The second one was providing a whole set of developer services for them to run and integrate the key AI services that they need. So things like model builder, right? So we have a agent builder that you can build AI agent and comes out of the box, right? So things like support for MCP, the Model Context Protocol. So you have the same standardized connector for your AI applications to access any LLMs of their choice and make it pretty native and easy build, right? So, and then providing things like GPU as a service and multi-model tenants as a service, right? All of these capabilities now built in as part of VCF. So both for the developers as well as for the IT operators is what when we say private AI, now as part of VCF, it includes.
And one of the other standout things from the keynotes was, I think it was 9 out of 10 of the top, 9 out of the top 10 Fortune companies that are adopting VCF now, and also more than 100 million calls have been licensed. So the question I've got to ask, what's driving this adoption, or what are some of the examples that you're seeing on stage here at Explore?
Yeah, I mean, this has been over the last 18 months since we became part of Broadcom, was to actively work with our customers, because one of the things that happened because of the license model change, us moving to subscription and us moving from a virtualization focused company to a cloud company, it gave CIO and board level attention, right? It's like, because now we are a strategic vendor, we are an alternative to be a cloud platform. So that helped us get early with our customers to say, let's understand the value creation that we can provide for your business because of VCF, right? Outside of the operational efficiency, the IT productivity, how can we help you run your business critical applications, your modern applications on VCF and go faster to market? So that opened up the door for us to have this cloud operating model-led conversation. And that is why we are seeing that tremendous growth, right? Because it's no longer about one point product. It's truly a platform approach of building, managing, operating a private cloud, and truly unifying your silos from IT to deliver that. So that's the result behind the growth. And as I mentioned earlier, we are seeing new kind of workloads now run on VCF also. It's not your typical VM workloads that pretty much the world runs on VCF, but also these container workloads, the new AI workloads. So that's the second reason where we see a lot of growth happening in the market space. And then I would say this drastic maniacal focus on VCF, right? I'm sure you come to this event because this is where I think being part of the Broadcom culture helps us, right? So there's clarity of building high quality product and not be distracted by a lot of bright, shiny objects. And VCF is that singular focus for us to make sure it's the best private cloud platform in the industry. And there is intense R&D investment, and close to 18% of our revenue goes directly to R&D. I don't think any other company invests that much in R&D. So it shows the commitment of building products, and we are a product company, right? So I think those are some of the reasons why we are seeing that growth and momentum in the market.
And at the event here, there has been a big focus on those Fortune 100 companies, on the Walmarts and the Audis and all those huge enterprises. But I'm curious, how have these announcements been received by the smaller to medium-sized businesses that typically make up 70 to 80% of your customers? How do they react, or how have they been reacting here?
Yeah, so you also saw Grinnell Insurance, right? Yeah. It's a very mid-sized company, and they are fully on their way to deploying VCF, right? So one of the things that we truly wanted to see, and frankly, we are getting even more traction at those mid-size level, because it is driven by more of a CIO mandate, and they have a lot more control over their IT, where there are not that many fiefdoms, if you will, right? So it makes the adoption and the platform approach a lot faster in those mid-size than an extremely large-scale organization where they have so much technical depth, so many people, IT engineers, admins, etc., and they have their preference, right? So it's very hard to break those silos. So that's frankly where we've seen a lot of growth in this mid-sized companies, frankly, and you see a lot of those companies talking to us here. But yes, we have a lot of strategic customers too who are deploying VCF.
And public cloud cost concerns, they are another reoccurring theme across the industry. So how does VCF 9 help customers get that cost reality check and avoid the kind of waste that we've seen in public cloud deployment?
Yeah. One of the reports from the Cloud Reset that came was pretty much 70% of the customers say that they're wasting money at the public cloud, and of which quite a few of them were wasting more than 25% of their budget. That's huge, right? When you look at the public cloud contracts and commits there, right? So there were two aspects of it. One was the cost predictability aspect. A lot of our customers want predictable cost, and it was hard for them to find it in the public cloud environment. And private cloud provides a very clear CapEx and an OpEx predictability from the cost. And what we have built in VCF shows cost transparency. It shows for every workload or tenant how much compute resource has been spent and what does it cost, how much storage, how much memory, what networking. It's shown very clearly, so they can do a show back to their line of business or to their tenants, or do a chargeback based on the IT philosophy, right? So there is extreme cost transparency and cost predictability. And then there is this fine-tuning of cost optimization, because we are constantly checking how the utilization of all these VMs are, doing vMotion, DRS, all of these smart workload placement. So the utilization is really high. And then if there are underutilized VMs or non-utilized VMs, we can tell them, hey, you can just shut these VMs down and save major costs, right? So there's fine-tuning happening on a regular basis. Those two the customers are now feeling that it provides better predictability, better cost transparency, and better cost optimization on an ongoing basis. So that's where we see a lot of repatriation also happening, not just for security, resiliency, and Gen AI privacy concerns, but also for these cost predictability concerns.
And finally, if I would ask you to look ahead, how do you see VCF evolving over the next couple of years in terms of things like AI services, developer productivity, partnerships with everyone from NVIDIA to AMD, etc.? How do you see this evolving? You're probably limited to what you can share me, but where do you go from here?
Yeah, I would put it in a way of where do we see growth happening, right? So one area of growth for us is these modern applications and container workloads. So that's where we are investing a lot, and we see a lot of growth happening, and we will continue to build developer services, infrastructure services to make that VCF the most trusted and the most preferred platform for running their container workloads. That's one area of growth. The second is around obviously private AI and all of the AI workloads and the growth that we are seeing based on use case from fine-tuning, inferencing, RAG across the board. So that's the second area of growth. And the third is all around the cyber resiliency aspect, right? Like data services, disaster recovery, ransomware recovery, compliance, enforcement, all of those. How can we help create better, resilient organization is another area of focus where we expect the growth happening. And all of this requires a very strong, open ecosystem of partners, right? Whether it's at the chipset level, hardware level, ISV level, etc., where we want to make VCF a very open platform where customers can build or integrate with any third-party system. So those are the areas for focus for us in the upcoming years and releases.
Exciting times ahead. And for everybody listening, I'll put links to everything so they can keep up to speed with all the coverage. I would urge them to contact you or your team if they find anything there that they want to continue the conversation with. I know you're incredibly busy, so just thank you for dropping by today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a great conversation. Appreciate it.
So having listened to my guest today, I think it's clear why VCF 9 has been generating so much buzz this week. And yeah, we heard about unified operations at scale, workload-agnostic flexibility, license portability, and that push to give VI admins the tools to operate like cloud admins. And I think we also explored how VCF is tackling AI workloads, cyber compliance, and cost predictability. All concerns that have been top of mind for enterprises everywhere. But what matters most is how this lands with you and your organisation. Not just what we see here and what we report from the show floor at a tech conference. So do you see VCF 9 as a fit for your organisation? Could the unified platform approach change the way that we think about cloud operations? Or simply help you get more out of your infrastructure investments? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please reach out on LinkedIn and drop me a note with your perspective. techblogwriteroutlook.com, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes, where if you pop by, you'll also see me on the show floor with a lightsaber. More on that story later. But thanks again for my guest joining me during such a busy week here. And thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in. But until next time, keep the questions coming. Let's continue this conversation. And I'll return directly into your podcast feeds again tomorrow. Bye for now.